begin with breaking news. Buckingham Palace has just released a new photo and update about Catherine, the Princess of Wales.
Yeah, it's been nearly 3 months since the princess revealed that she had been diagnosed with cancer, and even longer since she's been seen in public. CNN's Max Foster is live outside of Buckingham Palace. And Max, we're looking at the photo right now, and I understand you have a statement.
Yeah, so the photo was taken earlier this week, actually, in the grounds of the Windsor estate, which is where they live. The statement written by Kate, as I understand it, she talks about being blown away by all the kind messages of support and encouragement that she's had. She also says she's making good progress. So we know that she's receiving chemotherapy. We know the treatment will be going on for months now. So for many people, that's more serious than we first thought. But she does feel well. She says she has good days. Well, she has bad days, she has good days, she often feels weak and tired, and she has to give in to her body resting. But we have been told that tomorrow, the King's birthday parade, which is a big event that happens here on Saturday, she will be attending that with her children. We'll see her in a carriage and on the balcony. And so that's going to get a huge amount of attention. People will be poring over the images of her. And she's not pretending that she's out of the woods in any way, but she is saying the treatment's ongoing, she has a few more months, and she does feel the joy of everyone's get well messages, as it were. She's learning to be patient, she says, especially with uncertainty, taking each day as it comes, listening to her body, allowing herself to make much needed time to heal.
And Max, help us understand the significance of the timing of this announcement.
Well, the King's delighted, I'm told, that the Princess is able to come. She has this treatment. The doctors have told her she's okay to start appearing at events, but they're announcing it last minute because they're taking each event as it comes. She may feel too tired that day to suddenly turn up. Even tomorrow, she may not be able to turn up. And they wanted to speak to us, the media, about that because we shouldn't read too much into that. She's really keen to retain her privacy, but she's starting to be able to do more. And part of her recovery is being able to live a relatively normal life. So there have been pictures, for example, of her out and about and with the children. We haven't published those pictures, giving her that space. They want that space to be able to recover properly. So at some point she will be able to return to a full round of engagements. We may well see her over the summer. We're told we shouldn't read too much into that. This isn't her returning to work full time. She just wants to spend time with her family at home, and she wants to spend time with her family tomorrow. But tomorrow's event becomes a lot bigger because we haven't seen her at a public engagement since Christmas Day. It's been months.
Yeah, it has been. It'll be really something to see her. Max, thank you. If you can stand by for us, we want to bring in CNN Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who's with us now. And Sanjay, the princess had started what she called preventative chemotherapy in February, and then she revealed today her treatment will continue for months, which is something that I think, as Max pointed out, some people didn't expect. So that was some news there. Is that typical for preventative chemotherapy, and what is preventative chemotherapy?
Right. Well, you know, there is obviously a lot that we don't know here, and that's understandable. So, you know, the people are speculating a lot, and we're not going to do that, obviously, here. One thing I will say is that preventative, for a lot of people, they think, well, that's something to prevent cancer in this case. And I think, and some of this may be semantics, but I think what we're really hearing and what has become clear in this most recent statement that Max read is that we're talking about something that's really more known as adjuvant therapy, something that is given to treat cancer that may not have been entirely removed at a previous operation, for example. That's typically what you hear, and that sort of fits the timeline as well of several months of chemotherapy. It can be 6 to 9 months of chemotherapy, sometimes even longer than that. It's dependent on a lot of the factors you see there on the screen. Again, we don't know the type of cancer, or certainly the stage. There's different medications depending on what the specific cancer is, and all of that affects not only the types of medications that she is getting, but also how she's likely to feel while she's getting those medications, the side effects, for example, those medications, and then, as I mentioned, the length. But that semantic point you're raising, Brianna, good one. Preventative versus adjuvant therapy. Some people use those terms interchangeably, but it very much sounds like they are still treating her underlying cancer.
Sanjay, she also says that she has good and bad days, and also says, quote, "I am not out of the woods yet."
Yeah.
What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sitting here with you looking at this lovely picture. I mean, it's a beautiful picture. I think to reconcile that with what she's saying, she's still got a long road. I think there's two issues. One is that how well are the medications that she's taking for chemotherapy working? Are they making a difference? I think that might be some of the interpretation of out of the woods. But also, how do you feel? Good days, bad days. I hear that from a lot of my patients as well. Sometimes you feel actually pretty good. And then the next day, it can be very different. Even the next hour, it can be very different. And on the screen there, you see some of the things that people often talk about when they're undergoing chemotherapy. It's exhausting. You're basically trying to target all these different cells in the body. That can be very exhausting. People develop what they call chemo brain or brain fog. There can be all these things. Even your mood can fluctuate wildly. So I think it's these two things. How well is the chemotherapy actually working? And how is she doing with the side effects during that time?
Yeah, and Sanjay, can you just talk a little bit? This isn't a strictly medical condition, but I think it's a question really around what it takes for a family when you're dealing with a potentially very serious illness. Because, I mean, we look at the royal family, and in particular, we notice they're not being particularly forthcoming about what type of cancer we're talking about. But at the same time, there's this history of the very prying British tabloids being quite injurious to the children of this family with the things that it has said. And so you sort of understand maybe why. Can you speak a little bit to what is important for a family when they're managing a complex and uncertain road dealing with an illness?
I can't even imagine how challenging this must be. I mean, again, I take care of patients, and I know, and they're not the royal family. And yet it upends your entire life. So, when it upends your entire life like that, it's very hard to know how to proceed. And as Max was talking about, and as was mentioned in the statement, it's all uncertainty. There's hardly anything you can hang your hat on. And so that becomes very challenging because people want answers. Kids of the patient want answers. They want to know, they want to try and instill as much certainty as possible. And then you add to the fact that you're talking about this very famous family that everyone is curious about. So I see how challenging it is with my own patients who are not in this position. You're absolutely right, Brianna. It's got to be that amplified exponentially for the royal family. But I think, just as we're not speculating, part of that is because obviously we don't know, but also because some of this is not known. It's not like some of this is known and they're just not telling you. It's very unclear, I think, sometimes when you're giving adjuvant therapy, chemotherapy, exactly how the patient's going to respond. Is it going to work? And how are they going to tolerate those medications? That is an unknown.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, always great to get your perspective on these kinds of stories. Thanks so much.
You got it. Thank you.
Let's bring in CNN royal historian Kate Williams. Kate, thanks for being with us. What's your reaction to this update?
Well, what a moving statement from Princess Catherine here. I mean, we were very moved in March the 22nd, when she came on air and she told us that she was suffering from cancer, which was a great shock, I think, to people all around the world. And now here she is telling us in these very honest terms about her recovery, good days and bad days. She's not out of the woods yet. And this really, I think, this beautiful photograph of her, this wonderful photograph on the Windsor estate with one of their fabulous old trees. And I think we've had all these conversations about royal photographs. This is a really beautiful portrait that I think shows a woman who is looking well, but also, as she says, going through a lot. And I think most of all, it's really wonderful news that we're going to see her tomorrow when the King's Trooping the Colour, his birthday parade. It's not his birthday till November, but the King gets 2 birthdays. It's a very strange custom. So we're going to see her in this parade, because I think many of us thought we weren't going to see her for a long time. So people will be thrilled to see her. And, obviously she's going through a lot, but she's really fighting through it.